Welcome to Dead Man Talking. Tonight's show is a long time coming, and a series that I've had my eyes on for quite some time, from the incredible mind of ForestHasEyes, from over on Reddit, No Sleep. As ever, please do let us know what you thought down below in the comments box. Please do like and share. It really does help build the channel and our community further, and why not hashtag TeamFEAR and DMT's Cryptid crew. And so, with that aside, let's get into tonight's story, entitled I'm a security guard hired to protect an estate. The forest has eyes. Part 9. Let's get straight into that. Adrenaline. It's the fuel that your blood and nervous system receives when your body realizes the chips are down, it's now or never. It's funny what some chemicals being put into the right part of your brain can do. I've experienced this rush many times over my life, and truth be told, I thought my body had become immune to it. My veins and arteries becoming worn down from constant usage. And I thought they had become desensitized to the mule kick like punch it gives you. I guess I'm wrong. When John screamed over that phone, something in me switched on. A part of me that had laid dormant for many years, that didn't do things just for self-preservation or money. Well, like I said, I screamed over the phone at Isaac and Roseanne, and truth be told, by how they reacted, I think I scared the shit out of them. Because they came out of that house in a dead sprint. Even then, they barely slid into the car as I slammed the gas pedal, making an SUV with near 5,000 pounds of up-armoring hit the high 80s in less than a few seconds. I gave up on trying to stop for stop signs and lights. There was no need to be cautious about police or other cars because there's fucking no one in this goddamn town. We came to a particularly high bump just before an intersection. Now that I think about it, I think it might have been a speed bump, because when we landed down, hard, I remember finally hearing Roseanne's voice as she watched the stop sign zoom right past us. You mind telling us what the hell's going on? Hello? Nolan? I gazed at the GPS and realized we'd probably gone a good mile before I even thought about briefing them. The wonders of fight or flight mode, I guess. John called, is all I muttered out, as I snapped hard on a left turn, driving over the curb to take a right down another street. And I saw Isaac grab the oh shit handle above his seat. What? What's up with the kid? And part of me gained some respect for Isaac. As soon as I mentioned John, he leaned right in. That guy might be off sometimes, but his heart is in a good place. The kid was screaming, something attacking his friend's house. Isaac's eyes widened as he sat back down in his seat. So he pried his hand off the handle and reached into the glove compartment for his 5-shot. Roseanne poked her head between the seats. Wait, kid? I looked at the GPS, and we were now soaring down the main avenue of the town, the same one Isaac and I had driven down when we initially arrived. We sailed past the bar, that gun shop owned by the two Europeans, the sword mill, and yet, even as I drove this hunk of metal at 80 miles per hour, not a single police officer could be seen. Kasimov's kid. I finally answered Roseanne, and then hit the brake and drifted a SUV on a right turn. The off-road treaded tires screeched as Isaac leaned, loading rounds into his revolver and shoving more into the pockets of his pants. Wait, where's this house at? She said. I remember the ending of that sentence trailed off as she just stared ahead at the GPS. The northwestern edge of town. Roseanne grew quiet from her answer. By the woods? I nodded in response. Oh, God. Before I could even address that ominous remark, I slammed on my brakes and we were on the final left turn of the drive. As I sped up down the road, my right hand dug around inside my jacket, pulling out my Glock and resting it on my thigh. Isaac slapped his cylinder into the weapon, spinning it. What's the play, Sarge? And I ran through scenarios in my head. All the variables started to click into place like a calculus. Small house, 30 meters long, 15 across. Entrance up the stairs on the right side. Occupants are 2 teenagers and 1 adult hand. Flashing red and blue lights caused me to brake hard. The tires of the SUV screeched to a halt on the deserted road. Shit, I thought. We had finally got the cops on us. I started to prepare a brief for the cops on the situation. when I realized the lights weren't coming from my mirrors. They were coming from my windshield, down the road in front of us. Isaac wiped condensation from his portion of the window and squinted with his eye. I flicked on the wipers, and through the cold mist and fog, I could see a patrol car, lights on and flashing, parked diagonally across the road, rear bumper facing us. My eyes shot to the GPS. Destination 55 meters ahead. We were here. I gave Isaac a nod as I slid my Glock slide back, checking to see if a round was chambered. I flicked the safety off as I slowly drove ahead, and Roseanne stayed more or less in front of us, the top half of her body between our seats. Good to know the witch doctress showed no fear. As we pulled up to the house, I tried to call John again on the car's touchscreen. The slow hum of the engine, along with the ringing, gave us the only noise around as we inched closer and closer to the site. Now, the cop's car's driver's side door was wide open, and one of the windows was rolled down. From my spot in the car, I could see a small radio, the one they used for the speaker mounted on top, dangling out over the driver's seat. I cracked open my door, and Isaac did the same, my pistol's barrel leading the way as I peeked my head out. It was dark, hella dark, and through the fog I could see the house just 20 meters from us. The front door was wide open, ripped off its hinges. The banister of the porch and the railings of the stairs were broken, bent, one part thrown off and stabbed into the lawn. And I slipped back into the driver's seat and looked at the screen. Call failed. John Kazimoth. Johnny. And I cursed under my breath. Isaac hiccuped as he aimed his revolver towards the house, taking cover behind the door while sitting inside the vehicle. Roseanne leaned over my seat. "Well, Dwight, I guess now the tables have turned. This is your turf. What do we do?" My eyes snapped at the cop car, and through my headlights I saw a discarded pistol magazine with spent casings everywhere. My turf. It bounced around in my head. A forced entry, plenty of innocents with God knows how many enemies lurking inside. The police vehicle and casings meant one thing. Law enforcement had arrived and failed. What to do? Fuck, what to do? I grew frustrated with myself. The hourglass was ticking. And I remember what Theodore said about me meddling in things that weren't my business, trying to be a hero. The way it damaged the house, took out the armed patrolman. My nerves were battling themselves. And I guess my instincts won when I thought back to that frantic phone call John made, screaming, "Help," at the top of his lungs. I punched the trunk's release button and stepped out. Isaac, to the back. He cackled under his breath as he beat me to the punch, flinging the heavy door upwards and pulling out one of the 2 black crates. They were those heavy-duty tough boxes, reinforced equipment cases that you could use to store a number of things. But for us, we only had some specifics in mind. Now, Isaac giddily flipped open the latches on one and pulled out one hell of a shotgun. In the dark of the night, I remember seeing Benelli M4 etched on the side, just under the ejection port. It was the mother of all boomsticks, and apparently Merkel's favourite. I opened one of the cases and pulled out 2 carrier kits. They were simple plate carriers, pouches for magazines, items, and 2 radio systems attached. True, whatever had attacked the house could have easily tore through these, but it was better than nothing. Roseanne snuck up on my left, using the car as cover as I slapped magazines stuffed with rounds into my kit. "I took a peek at the house. The entire entranceway looks fucked." You don't say. Her words echoed in the distance as I grabbed my rifle. I slapped a full magazine in, then punched the bolt release as it made that oh so satisfying clink. As I slung it over my shoulder, I eyed the house through the windows from the trunk. "Any sign of John?" I checked my 15's holographic sight, then a red dot on the side before pulling it close. I don't know, but the sound of a crash from deep inside the house caused us to snap to attention, and Isaac aimed his big man killer towards the house. Something's definitely still in there. Now's your chance, Rose. You can take off to your house and no one will judge you. I rounded the SUV back to the door by the driver's seat, aiming my rifle at the house. Roseanne followed close behind, and I saw out of the mirror she shook her head. "No, If there's a kid here, I'm staying. I've had to tell too many parents that they may never see theirs again. Not again." Her words made a small chuckle break through my whatever I was going through right then. Fuck yeah. I pulled back from my door, handle gripping my vertical attached to the rifle as I moved towards the patrol car, sight glued to the house front points of entry the entire time. I took a knee as I took cover behind the trunk, and Isaac moved up alongside the parked cars. He bounded up, taking cover behind a van parked alongside the cop car. Honestly, for a trucker who even said most of his tactical skills came from war movies, he did pretty alright. I released my front grip as I crouched down and searched the front of the cop car. What a mess. Casings blanketed the entire front seats. The radio system was half ripped out of its mount in the car, and the windshield? Oh, there was barely any spiderwebbing cracks, but 2 large gashes cut into the glass. And the odd thing was, no micro-cracks formed along the sides of them. It was like a hot knife just cut right into it. Roseanne stopped to take more notes than I did. Not literally. She didn't have a whole book out. Anyways, I just moved along the left side of the engine block and finally got a good view of the front of the house. And so, from what I saw, the door was barely hanging on by a hinge, and this was a solid metal-looking door from the grey interior side. Lights flickered from inside, as I saw what looked like the end of a couch upside down, leaning diagonally against the wall. And yet, even as I waited there for a few seconds, no more sounds came from within. Fuck it. Night's not getting any younger. I pushed forward towards the house, saying screw it to the normal rules of cover and concealment. And from the shit I saw out in the woods, whatever was here could probably see in the dark, detect my body heat, and was probably planning the best way to try and bite my right calf off. And speaking of right calf, I nearly tore it off tripping, which is odd. Odd because I looked down, and a freshly made gash in the earth was dug through the entire front lawn towards the house. And then it clicked. The woods were in the backyard. Why would any assailant come through the front door? I scanned the area around me. The cop's car's front bumper was dented and bashed to hell. The dirt coming towards the house was dug up, and my eyes followed the trail leading from across the road. It wasn't just this block it led to. That fucking neighbor's goddamn house. My eye twitched. Through the moment of blinding rage, I was piecing it together. It wasn't the woods this time. It wasn't a demon from the goddamn trees. It was that slimy, unnatural fuck. And we just let slide this entire time. I ripped my mind away from the momentary rage and came up alongside Isaac. He had taken cover behind a large end table just to the front right of the steps. It was after the fact I had inspected. The table was thrown from the front windows, as one of them was completely smashed out. Whatever stormed in there did so with a vengeance. "This is a mess, Dwight," he said, peeking just over the front sights of his shotgun. It was the neighbor. I muttered, "What?" "The trail of death leads from his house." Isaac cursed under his breath. "That son of a bitch! We gonna shoot him, right?" I aimed my rifle to a good position to the right of the front door. We're gonna do a whole lot more than that. I remember my mind thinking something like a combination of kerosene and salt. Isaac and I rushed to the front door, stacking up on the right side. Roseanne moved up and hid behind the table we just came from. My old muscle memory came back into play, and I pulled Isaac to the front of the stack by his carrier's carry handle. If we were going in, and we were, the 12-gauge doomstick was going to lead the way. And taking a break, I reached up with my free hand and squeezed his shoulder. The carpet on the wooden plank floor was torn up, pieces tossed everywhere. A lounge chair was flipped on its side, and a ceiling fan mounted above was missing a blade, swinging around, half ripped from the roof. And I squeezed his shoulder, and we rushed in. Isaac charged in, almost stopping in the doorway, and if it weren't for me charging in right behind him, he held his barrel at his chest level. And at this distance, it didn't need to be accurate. I cleared the corners of the room, almost tripping over a gutted TV as we stepped in. Oh, he was right. What a mess. The front room, or at least what was left of it, led 6 meters deep into the house, some side rooms branching off, and with a doorway leading to what I saw was a kitchen. How did I know it was a kitchen? because the fridge was thrown down on its side, half blocking the hallway. And silence was all that greeted us. Through the small buzzing and zapping of the fan's now dying light, a small crunch of glass came from the doorway behind us, and I snapped back but lowered my weapon. Roseanne slowly entered the room with us. Jesus! You seen anything like this before? I said, covering Isaac as he kicked in some of the side rooms, and closest one by one, aiming his shotgun, and mouthing, "Woocha!" "No," Roseanne whispered. She knelt down, picking up a small picture frame from the floor. "I've never seen these things in person. Right when it was happening." And if it was still happening, for John's sake, I made a small plea to whatever high power existed that he was still here. As I marched forward, my foot catching on broken chairs, which I kicked off, smashing it off the back wall, I threw caution to the wind. "John!" I called out. Isaac came out of one of the side rooms, pointing his shotgun up in the air, with one hand shaking his head. "John, are you here?" I said, storming into the hallway. A Halloween-style wreath hung surprisingly intact on the wall, with pictures and kids' drawings thrown off in all directions. The crunching of glass beneath one of my boots caused me to step back. It was of the father, or whatever friend John had, and he knelt down next to his daughter, smiling as he held her in one arm. Motherfucker. Isaac stormed out of the room, searching the next. "Nothing!" I heard him yell, and the pit in my stomach grew. The smashing of wooden boards caused my weapon to shoot right up, aiming at the entryway into the kitchen. More crashing, and what sounded like a tin trash can being knocked over followed. Something was here. If not John, God have fucking mercy on whatever remained. We pushed into the kitchen. No one in sight, but Roseanne made an interesting observation in retrospect. None of the cabinets and drawers that were damaged were ripped open. They were all smashed or dented in, as if something was shoved against them. "Whatever entered," she said, "had a rough fight with whatever lurked inside the house." Behind me, Isaac kicked in a side room next to the kitchen, which turned out to be the pantry. He then retreated as boxes and cans nearly crushed him as they spilled onto the floor. "Damn, sad we ain't looters, 'cause we'd be making a killing." And I turned to Isaac. "You see a second floor to this place?" And he shook his head. "Nah, no basement either. Weird too. 'Cause where the fuck is everyone if they ain't in here?" Another loud crash of metal clanging called out through the windows, peering over the backyard. The backyard, bordering the cursed woods of this motherfucking town. And Isaac lowered his barrel. "That's gotta be it." And I took the lead. Isaac followed behind me, covering our ass as we took a right down some stairs. Another heavy metal door, and this time ripped clean off its hinges, told the story. The fight went to the backyard. The screen door laid on its face on the concrete outside. I knelt on the stairs, knowing whatever we were seeking was just feet in front of us. Let's shoot these suckers, Dwight." The sound of my jacket sleeve sliding against the wall followed as I button hooked around the corner. My red dot turned on as I scanned the area around us, and Isaac charged out, taking the right side. We both aimed our weapons around, searching for something, anything. "Well," Isaac shouted, "we're right here, Woods. Come fucking get some." Nothing. I stood there squaring up with my weapon, and nothing happened. We went balls to the wall and charged into whatever belly of the beast had attacked us, and nothing followed, and I remember even the crickets chirped. It was gone. No. I shook my head in disbelief, dropping my barrel, but only to try and contain the rising anger inside. I looked around. A large chunk of the boards of the back fence were missing. No John, no fucking boogeyman, not a goddamn... "Fuck!" I yelled, taking my boot and soccer kicking a metal chair nearby so hard it flew into the air and landed in the grass. And Roseanne crept out. Her flashlight illuminated the dark lawn around us as she came up alongside Isaac and I. "That can't be it, man. Dwight, look. There's gotta be something." Isaac jogged over to the back fence, slinging his shotgun as he glanced around for something, or anything. I remember Roseanne asking, "What's wrong?" But I just ignored her. My hand shot to my face as I dug into my own skin. We had one chance, one fucking chance. If I had been smarter, faster. If I just blitzed into the house instead of being methodical. If I hadn't been so stupid as to drop the kid off at the house in the first place. "Dwight!" Roseanne shook my shoulder as my eyes burned holes into her. "What?" And before I could unleash the tirade I wanted to, I noticed she wasn't even looking at me. She pointed towards the left side of the fence, and my eyes drifted over to a large dent in the fence, and the figure that was laying defeated in whatever vegetable plant the homeowner had planted. And through my marching that would give even the angriest wife-beaters a run for their money, I eyed it up. And I'd say it because it was exactly the person I was looking for. A torn flannel shirt lay pressed against its body, blood-soaked. Old khaki shorts were now shreds, barely hanging on, and with numerous cuts and gashes and marks lining its limbs. I kicked it over with my right boot, receiving a gurgling, inhuman groan from the thing. Roseanne shined a light on it. The neighbor. Or at least I could just barely make him out as his lips were split and torn. A large gash was cut into his neck, and no hair in his eyes. One looked like the normal human eye, blue with its pupil horribly dilated. The other, well, no colour remained at all. No iris, just a small pin-sized pupil, like those eyes you drew as a kid on stick figures. "Where's the kid?" I shouted, earning only silence and ignorance from it. I could see it was favouring its left arm, which had been mangled to the point. It looked morphed. I took my foot and pressed it down. No, stomped it down, earning a rise from it as it groaned. I aimed my weapon at it, red dot resting between the two terrible eyes on its face, as it burned a look of pure hatred into my face. "What did you do?" I screamed, and again it refused to answer, simply slamming its fist down weakly on my boot. Roseanne came up, shining her light fully on it. "No way," she said, drawing the attention to its eyes and arm. "It's a witch." The thing's voice was warped, a man's voice that sounded far too deep, and with others of different pitch, tone and type, subtly repeating its words. It reached out towards Roseanne with its free arm, causing her to retreat behind me, and I took the steel toe, pressing it down on its arm, and drove it up into its jaw. The satisfying crack gained a yelp from it as its arm shot to its face, holding its jaw, and Isaac now joined us as he trotted over. "Hey, I found..." "What the fuck?" I turned and I could see Isaac holding something, but before I could even get a chance to ask, the thing lunged at my legs, trying to get a hold of one. A bash in my rifle stock defeated it quickly. "Where is the kid?" A voice now of unbridled rage consumed me, as I kicked it again and again, repeating the words. "Where is John? Where is John? Where is John? Where is John? Where is John?" And something pulled me from my onslaught, and I looked back to see it was Roseanne. "Dwight, please, just let me try." I looked her deep in the eyes, violet, dark purple. She pried hers from mine as she dug around in her bag, and I gazed at the thing. The spot I had continuously kicked, its breastbone, was now a dark purple and red. I could feel the steam radiating off my skin. I had broken a sweat from all that literal boot to the neck action. They say outbursts of rage like that would leave you tired, drained, and a headache from the energy spent being your only reward. Well, I have to say in hindsight, there is none. It felt great. Roseanne pulled out that notebook of hers again, a light green hardcover with runes drawn onto the outside in black ink. She knelt down though, taking cover behind my left leg as she did, and began to speak to the creature. She did so in small whispers at first, to draw its attention through its current physical traumatized state. And as she did, its malformed eyes locked onto hers, and it began to mutter back. Whatever pig Latin-type language they were speaking sounded like it rearranged the letters in normal words and then read them backwards. Isaac and I watched the interaction, our hands ready on our superior American-made firepower. The thing spoke now, calm and collected, and Roseanne sighed, shaking her head, and catching my attention when, damn it, escaped her lips. Not taking my eyes off it, I asked $1 million question. What? It's, She stopped, sitting back and crossing her legs and sighing. It wasn't the one who attacked the house. And Isaac shook his head wildly in surprise. Oh yeah, sure. I sure believe that. Don't you, Dwight? And I didn't answer, because I didn't. It was eyeing up this place, its inhabitants as its next visit, but it was beaten to the punch. Something came from the woods, it said. Attacked the house. He tried to take advantage of the storm, but totally failed. And I saw it was now looking up at me, with a bruised jaw and chest, staring daggers into my eyes. The woods. Those fucking woods. I asked what took the kids. I told Roseanne, and she looked at the thing, hesitant. I snapped my head back. Roseanne! She recollected herself, shaking her head. In her weird backwards-ass speech, I heard the thing laugh, deep and guttural, and say a short collection of words to her. She paused for a moment, not speaking. Well, the woods took them. And I sighed. And this caused the thing to only laugh at my frustration. It was then, in Roseanne's light, I noticed the creature's legs. One of them, its right thigh, had been burrowed into by branches, and deep vines had dug right into the fleshy, disturbed dirt, pinning it there. That can't be it. We can go into the woods. Maybe it didn't run off too far. Roseanne shook her head, grabbing the side of my plate carrier to hoist herself to her feet. You go running off into those woods this late at night, and you're finished. And they continued to bicker, Isaac channeling his frustration for John, while Roseanne cautioned him, and I remained silent, gazing down at the thing at my feet. What did it fight? I asked, drawing Roseanne's attention from Isaac. What? I looked at her. The kind of damage done in there, or there was a brawl. Ask him what exactly did he square up with. Roseanne was hesitant at first, but shook it off as she looked into her book and asked it. The thing spat on the ground, muttering a few phrases in response. He says, the lichen, or the terror. And that caused me to pause. Just, what? What? I said, confused, and Isaac leaned around me. Terror. Terror, Roseanne repeated. From the green. The thing spat again, this time more violently, and I looked down, and I saw in the light it had spit up vegetation, a thorny rose stem. Listen. Roseanne placed her hand on the front of my plate carrier, pushing me back a ways from the thing. I can try to ask it as many broken phrases as I can, but it has only given me so much. John is... She paused. I could tell she was being very careful of what she was going to say next, especially to Isaac and I. It's too soon after the kidnapping. This was an intentional attack on him. So I say we head up to your place, and we start digging there. What? Isaac screamed, his voice bouncing off the house, fence and trees around us, echoing. That kid is in there, in those fucking woods, and you want us to leave? No, we have to go in there and get him. Roseanne balled up her hands and groaned. She and Isaac spat venom at each other, but to me, it was white noise. I was more fixated on the thing, still tied in the vines, as it now cut and wrangled them out of its leg to get free. You said it's not human, I said to Roseanne, pulling her from her shouting match, and she gave a face she clearly didn't expect the question. No. You said it was going after John too, correct? I interrupted, and Roseanne was quiet. She looked at me wide-eyed. Dwight, I answered with the sound of my motors grinding together, watching it wrangle itself free. Dwight, she said uncomfortably. Roseanne answered the question. I said, muttering from clenched teeth. She was hesitant. I could see her eyes snap down, probably looking at how I was white-knuckling my weapon system. Yes, but why? It made its choice, and at that moment, so did I. Roseanne stood to my front left, pushing forward, and I shoved her to the side, left hand coming back and gripping my rifle, and I aimed at the thing. 12 shots, one after the other. I didn't switch it to auto. That would be just too quick. I've been waiting for a crack at whatever was hunting us. Sure, it might not have been what kidnapped John, but it still targeted him. It still saw him, us, Isaac and I, though all of this is more justification for you, the guys who have been following my blogging misadventures, because I pulled that trigger 12 separate times. I had made up my mind, and my moral compass had cleared itself. I stopped my assault, rifle still aimed, eyes still looking at it through the holographic sight. It was strange, because on its nearly porcelain white skin, I could see my grouping. Why could I see my grouping? It was because its blood poured out, slowly, black and inky in nature. It stumbled back as it had just gotten free of the vines, sliding down and sitting back against the fence. It looked at me, eyes no longer of hatred, just acceptance. And after staring at this thing for weeks and not knowing its true intentions, one phrase rung throughout my mind as the ringing in my ears subsided. Gotcha. Dwight! Roseanne shouted angrily as she shoved my right shoulder. My rifle dropped as she then tried to slap me across the face. I simply leaned back. Her frustration wailed as she jabbed my plate carrier with her fist. What the fuck was that? What do you think? I said, cold and calculated, just like the shots I took. The anger flooded from her face as she held her head, walking away from me towards the backside wall of the house. You just killed a person. It wasn't a person. She then spun around and pointed at it. Do you think anyone will believe you in court? That thing was a fucking shapeshifter? Wait, shapeshifter? From what this shows, you just shot a fucking burglar who broke and entered the house right before attempting to kidnap someone. I said, and she frowned, walking up to me. Even as she was almost a foot shorter, she still squared right up to me. You can't just solve this by shooting your way out. That's not how you do things. That's not... Isaac spit into the lawn. I don't know. Problem looks pretty solved to me. And she pushed past me, getting up in Isaac's face. Oh, really? Then where's John? Where's the kids? Roseanne looked at Isaac and I. You wanted my help because your way wasn't working. So, unless I say so, no more gun-ho shit like that. You will get us all fucking killed. John's in there. We need to go after him. Isaac shouted more at her than me. I remember what Rose said. You go in there, you're finished. I remember that night in the storm, being lured in by a trap, barbed wire, blurry vision, and dozens of those things lying in wait. I switched my magazine out for a fresh one, a full one, and slapped it into the weapons mag well. Well then, if your way says we should go investigate the estate, I eyed the broken spot on the fence to the back of the fence. Let's go save John. Roseanne looked like she wanted to say something, but swallowed it. She hid one and nodded. We marched out of there. Roseanne gazed at the house as we went through a side gangway, leading to the street, and Isaac looked back towards the thing. I didn't. I didn't care if it was still there, if it vanished when our heads were turned. Despite my momentary rage, it was time to move on. John was now missing, and our time was running out. Our enemies are baring teeth and coming closer. And now my boss is threatening to dump us all in a ditch and cover us up. Also, because you'll probably ask, we checked the house once more. We didn't find the dad, nor John's friend. And eerily enough, we also didn't find the police officers. I tried calling the local station, but no one was picking up. Isaac, as you might imagine, debated with me the entire drive back. I guess I found a middle ground, because Isaac's inside of the bar right now, picking up supplies, as I requested. In actuality, he's talking to the two Germans, Merkel and Gareth. The end of the line is approaching, and despite what Roseanne says, I think we're going to need more boom for what's coming next. And speaking of whom, she didn't say anything to us on the way back, just stared out the window, until she passed out. Beanie pulled over her eyes. God, I could really use some sleep. Can't though, John's out there. We've got to find him. We've got to stop all of this. We're nearing the end. This isn't probably the way you wanted this little entry to end, but between the dark, the fog, the dark void of my sleep exhaustion pulling me more and more into the abyss, We need to get a move on. This is Dwight Nolan, signing out, I guess. Stay safe, guys. Wow. Certainly another one. Wow. As I say, I've been waiting quite a few years to get this one started. Such a wonderful storyline with a captivating setting and the odd chuckle along the way. I hope you guys enjoyed that one as much as I. This is a 15-part series, so plenty more to come over the next coming week or so. Of course, a huge thank you to the author, ForestHasEyes, from over on Reddit, No Sleep. Really appreciate you allowing me to narrate this story on the show and finally bring it to all the listeners. And I hope you enjoy this as much as us. Well, guys and girls as ever, you know the drill. Please do let me know what you thought down below in the comments box. Please do like and share. It really does help build the channel and our community further. And why not hashtag TeamFEAR and DMT's Cryptid Crew. If you're an aspiring writer or would just like to have a crack at things like myself, then please do get in touch with me at the contact email, which is as on screen. contactthedeadone@gmail.com. I really look forward to hearing from you. I hope everyone's having a great start to the week, whether you're at work or studying, whatever it is that you do. I hope you're enjoying it and you're staying fit and focused. But above all, guys, remember, be safe, not sorry. The end of the line. I said, and she frowned, walking up on fucking mistake after mistake. It was like a hot knife just cut right into it. Fuck, you know. Fuck it. Night's not getting any younger. I pushed forward towards the house, saying screw it to the normal